I just want to say that I had the privilege myself of studying under this man as a student at Lincoln Christian Seminary. He is not only a brilliant scholar, but a man with a delightful sense of humor. I remember one day in Johannine theology class, it was a hot day in September, and the air conditioner in Restoration Hall wasn't working very well that day, and there were even a few students nodding off occasionally, even with Dr. Strauss's animated lecture. And right in the middle of it all, Dr. Strauss said that John the Apostle seemed to be addressing the Gnostic heresy in his first epistle. And that got all of our attention, woke all of us up. I remember another day catching up with Dr. Strauss on the way to chapel. I had a question, and as we walked side by side to chapel, he put his arm around my shoulders, and as we conversed there, I felt I not only had this man's undivided attention, but also his unconditional love. And this is another quality of this man that I've come to appreciate, is he cares. And we've all heard it said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. The man who's sharing with us this morning not only knows, but he also cares. And let's welcome him with a warm NACC welcome this morning.
Thank you for being up this early. And the air conditioning never works in Restoration Hall. It's something like the air conditioning units in this building. Five or 10 minutes of just resume of what we talked about last evening, and then the special category of holistic health, which is a fundamental source of inroad of contemporary New Age. 100 million Americans at various levels participate in New Age phenomena. I said last evening that New Age isn't new at all. It is classical Gnosticism. It is classical Eastern metaphysics, Hinduism, Buddhism. But it is the first time the antecedent of that is 1950s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. The first time that Eastern thought has impacted the West has been in the last 40 years in American culture. It started superficially with the Beatles, drugs, the counterculture, mindlessness in general, whose generation fought with the seat of their pants. And progressively, gurus displaced any Western scientific technology. Now technically, and then we'll be finished with the technical matter, what makes New Age possible in the last 40 years in the West is the developments in microscopic physics and molecular biology. That's hard to get a standing ovation, see, from a group who didn't even put their own clothes on this morning with that. But contemporary theories of physics and biology assert that all reality is reducible to energy, and that sounds like Hinduism. That's how we get books, dumb books like Capra, the Tao of Physics, and you didn't come for that, but the real breakthrough of New Age would have been impossible without developments in physics, biology, math, computers, neurocomputers, these are far past, not your capacity, but what we're going to do this morning. New Age is not just another outbreak of anti-biblical viewpoint. New Age is far more deadly as Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses, and all the cultic phenomena. We mentioned last evening that 1 out of every 2 persons in the world are animists. 1 out of every 2. You don't have to be a mathematician. 1 out of 2, that's digital. That makes spiritual talk, everything spiritual, and you really don't know what it means. See? Spiritual. You talk about the Holy Spirit in Africa, and they have a niche for that because they're animists. See? They just pop that right in. And you smile because you think you're communicating to them and with them, and they're still animists when you're finished. See, the New Age is a worldview. Now, if that's a strange word to you, I'm sorry that it is. I can't apologize for you. I can only pray for you. See? I can pray that you have instructors in the local congregations that are aware of the world that we're in. And if you don't, I can't even pray for you because the Bible is crystal clear. There are many things that it's sin to pray for. If you won't study, I can't pray that you understand. If you won't study the Bible, I can't pray that you'll understand the Bible. I just can't do that, see? Now, if you want to study, I can pray. So, 100 million Americans alone, we're not counting Europe, 100 million Americans. And for churches in these areas only, the demographics, the most concentrated area of New Age influence is in greater Los Angeles. The second most dense influence of New Age phenomena is 400 flight miles up the coast in San Francisco. See, many of the weird people from San Francisco moved to Dallas. See, the largest homosexual community in the world is in Dallas, Texas. That's completely contradictory. Conservative Texas, see, with that cultural ripoff. The third most densely populated is Denver-Boulder axis. We're not just talking about participants, we're talking about bucks. We're talking about megabucks. Millions. I commented just off the cuff, almost all non-technical comments are off the cuff. New Age publication in America alone is $1.25 billion annually. $1.25 billion. It's too early in the morning to ask any of you how many zeros there are in this billion. But that's an enormous amount of publication just in America. And Americans constitute only 6% of the world. That means 6 out of 100 live in America. What's that have to do with New Age? It's in America that New Age's influence is so powerful. No one would ever be concerned with New Age influence in India. Why, it's been there for its recorded history. 7,000 to 8,000 years. No, the San Diego creationists aren't correct. Now, no one would ever think that Japan is New Age. But Japan has never been Christian. Can you imagine? You can imagine. You're a very imaginative group. A country a tenth the size of Montana. And Montana is nothing. It's not even there. With no natural resources. That's Japan. Giving the world fits. Well, you haven't had one of those fits. You need a Japanese fit. See, these Japanese Buddhists in Shinto and Tao, Confucius, they work 7.5 hours a day. They overproduce Americans, and the worst Japanese product in the automobile industry is better than the best American product in high tech. Now that just drives certain people up the wall. Well, I'm just going to build a higher wall because I've got a lot of people to put up that wall. They just climb. So if you see thousands of people trying to get over a 1,000-foot wall or something, that's what I'm doing. But Japan has never been Christian. India's never been Christian. But the fastest growing church in the world is in China. 1949 was 1 million Christians. 1988, even before the great slaughter, 50 million. It's not in the news. Only tanks and rebellion is in the news. Asia has never been Christian. But almost every fundamental idea of New Age I passed out among you, period, and then I passed out among you a little chart. I want to recall that, then we'll try to get mental health and mental therapy and heal all the neurotic ills in the church by 10 o'clock. Isn't anybody well? Now, if you have that little sheet, I'm going to read it whether you do or don't. I'm only going to read it because I'm committed to reading the Bible out loud in the church. And you see, reading out loud alone will break a complete internalization, worrying about yourself. Try to read out loud. Read the Bible. Read the Narnia tales if you want Christian imagination. Read Tolkien. Let's look at these 10 little items about the worldview, and we'll turn quickly to a little tete-a-tete for a few minutes. In all New Age viewpoints, God is totally synonymous. Now, on that little sheet is the word creation, but see, New Agers don't believe in creation, they believe in creativity. They do not believe in a God who is the absolute origin, though they may talk of God. But they do not mean any God that's like the God of the Bible, the Judeo-Christian God. So if they talk of God, they're panentheists technically. That means everything is God. You're God. The flowers are God. See, that's why we get cards, $3 cards for the death of your cat. You talk about cultural crises. They said down in Kansas City making up slick back color cards to send to someone whose dog died. Takes 6 months for spiritual recovery from this loss. They have more empathy with dying whales than 4,000 aborted human beings every day. It's odd. I have not had residence in a mental institution, but I live in one. You know, 2 psychiatrists met each other and said, "Why, you're fine. How am I?" Now, some of these words are strange to you. We'll take a little time to say that. See, there's 900,000 words in English, and there's 7,000 different languages and dialects, and there's 5,000 plus Hebrew words in the Hebrew Bible and 5,000 different Greek words in the New Testament. Is it any wonder that the average American can't read the Bible? You can't read a book with 5,000 different words in it with a 400 or 500 word vocabulary, mainly pronouns. Can't be done. Now, God is everything, but that's not Christian. Now, the second thing, God is a principle. He's a universal law. He's a vibration or energy. Now, if we were in a school situation, we'd have to discuss that. Vibration or energy, universal consciousness, that's a big word. It's not Him, and this is the very heart of some weird people in the Ivy League in real schools that want to neuter the Bible. See, God's not she or he or anything. He's it. He's energy. And anything, you can stand on a bare 220 line and think you're filled with God. See, that's what I do when students get a little slow. I just ask the building people to put a bare 220 line in each row and have them stand on it. See, and they think they're having a revival. See? They don't know the difference. See? 3, I do, but they don't. Humanity is good. It's very important. Now that fits into humanistic psychology. We don't hear anything about sin because we don't want a guilt trip every Sunday. We want to be told that we're as good as anybody, and that could be, and that's still not amount to very much. See, our culture, the theme undiscussed within hearing distance of my ears, holiness. God determines what's holy. But in our culture, our peer groups, we ask one another and we take polls. Isn't it exciting that we get 47% for, 38% against, and the rest wish you hadn't even started the poll? See, truth isn't determined by taking polls here or anyplace else. Now, humanity is good. Therefore, holiness isn't something that requires redemption except knowledge. That's the Gnostic part. See, the Gnostic part that we got to have the right technique to become whole. We're headed for holistic health. We're going to be jogging for Jesus and karate for Christ and junk cereal for $4 a box, when they've already emptied all of its value and put synthetic vitamins in it for a penny and then sell us on being healthy. I said, I'm so healthy now, I have no business being any healthier. I would be under CIA investigation if they even knew how healthy I was. Now, human good. 3, the totality of reality is really good. There's no sin. There's no room for biblical holiness, and transformation is not in the hands of Christ. Transformation is not in God's hands, it's in the hands of technique. It's like if you fly, you see these flight magazines. Earl Nightingale, he has these dollar tapes for $300 to tell you how to be successful. Well, who on earth wouldn't be a success for $300 when you spent millions of dollars, thousands of dollars if you're poor, being a failure? God, if Earl were here, why, there wouldn't be any collections. Everybody be buying those tapes of how to be a Nightingale. Totality of existence is good. Now that's important. Now number 4, just elementary Christian claims. Christ's death and resurrection atonement for sin is not only unnecessary, it is irrelevant. Because there is nothing that we're guilty of. Guilt is abnormal psychological condition of the psyche. And therapy is to tell you that you shouldn't feel guilty, that you accept yourself. See, it's sheer humanism to hear people talk, preachers talk, about the absolute value of a person. That's not true. No person in the world except God is of absolute value. But I hear it all the time. The only reason I'm not more upset about it is that most people don't know what they're hearing. If I thought more people did, I'd be more upset. Christ is out of the picture. Yet, in the little bibliography that I gave you, and some bibliography on the other sheets, see, New Agers talk about the new Christ. New Christ. They mean new saviors. So the biblical Christ has been displaced by New Age Christ. So the heart of the Christian faith is out. Holiness is something that man does himself. Transformation is something man does himself. It does not require grace. God's grace. Number 5, cyclical view of history. Now notice the importance. Last evening I said, it's only in the Bible, the Judeo-Christian scriptures, that affirm the absolute origin in time and space of the universe and the consummation of reality in the consummation of Christ, the coming of Christ. The absolute, that means before that, nothing but God. God alone is ultimately transcendent. Now what does that have to do with history? See, all the Semitic views of history, all the Greco-Roman views, and all the Western views of history since the historiographical revolution in the 18th and 19th century, see, is cyclical, except for trying to break out with evolutionary optimism that we're going someplace. Where are you going? I don't know. It's like the flyers in the 30s. They flew by the seat of their pants and said, well, we're making great time, but we're lost. When you run out of telephone poles and barns, you're lost. Now, cyclical, now notice, you say, what does that have to do with the North American, with holiness? Tell me quickly, Tammy. Now, if history is cyclical, if history is cyclical, then we're not going any place, and if we're on that thing that's not going any place, we're not going any place either. It has a direct bearing on man worrying about, and that's not a chauvinistic man, humanity. My life doesn't mean anything. Life can't mean anything if the universe is merely rising and falling. See, if we're not going any place, then there's not the slightest possibility. Not the slightest. And before, I want to read this before I'm done with that. And this is not even the material. This is we're playing till I'm waiting for my wife to bring the material. I want to encourage you to think about something that's happened in media. I was going to take all morning on media, but that's too much fun. And some of us, when we're having fun, we say, "No, are we having fun? Is this fun? Is it started?" I want to call your attention to a piece of work, a brilliant piece of work that's filled with New Age. John Updike. Now, I'm not asking you if you read. See? Did I ask you that? I will, but I haven't yet. I don't read the Bible. Don't read other books if you haven't got time to read hundreds of books a year. Read at least the Bible. See? John Updike was a conservative Calvinist that taught at Calvin College. And now he's a New Ager. He used to believe in God, in creation, and the Scripture, and grace, and Jesus, and the resurrection. One of the most brilliant contemporary American authors lost his way because he had no one to guide him. And God knows that the influence of the Updikes are worth this room full of people. Most of us have no influence at all. Let me read you this about New Age and Johnny Updike. John Updike is, of the 3 or 4 American authors, highest echelon of literary production, but it's New Age. That's my concern. Hear these words. And these words, to edit them, Jenny is sitting in church thinking about these things. These, the antecedent of these, is what I'm going to read. For the last time, thought Jenny Van Horn, the exact blue of such a July day falls into my eyes. My lids lift, my cornea admits the light, my lens focus, my retinas and optic nerves report it to the brain. Tomorrow, the Earth's poles will tilt a day more toward August and autumn, and a slightly different tincture of light and vapor will be distilled. All year, without knowing it, she had been saying goodbye to each season. Jenny's dying of cancer, but she has no hope, and she's sitting in church without hope. All All year, without knowing it, she had been saying goodbye to each season, each sub-season, turned to weather, each graduated moment of fall's blaze and shedding of winter's freeze, of daylight gaining on the hardened ice, of that vernal moment when the snowdrops in crocus eye are warmed into bloom out of the matted brown grass in the intimate areas of the sunward side of stone walls. As when lovers... I appreciate that. Gotcha. Is there a hearing aid battery salesman here? And when lovers cup their breath against the beloved neck, she's been saying goodbye, for the seasons would not wheel around again for her. Days one spends so freely in haste and preoccupation, in adolescent self-concern. We live in a culture of the journey of the self-centered self. Days one spends so freely in haste and preoccupation, in adolescence self-concern, in childhood's joyous boredom. There really is an end to them, a closing of the sky like the shutter of a vast camera. These thoughts made Jenny giddy where she sat, and Jenny sat in church, trying to hear a word from God. But the author had abandoned God at least 15 years ago. Sitting in church without meaning. Wanting to know if church is over so we can get to dinner before the Baptist and the Methodist. The New Age is payday of the condition of the church. Cyclical history, number 6. Now note this, how it fits in to everybody saved, the spiritual world. Everything gets spiritual. Physical world is illusory or a projection of consciousness, Maya, the veil of ignorance. 7, all New Age religion is works. If you do more works and the right kind of works, you will save yourself. We've heard that before, but not just in New Age terms. If you do the right thing, then you'll be whole. Holistic health. It's not an accident that one of the New Testament words for worship in the infinitive, present infinitive, therapeuin, is therapy. Worship is healing, or it's not worship at all. Works, save yourself. Now this is not works versus grace tension in the Reformation. See, I don't allow the Reformation to set what biblical theology says. 8, God inherits the imperfection of the world. See, God grows with the world. God assimilates all the negative, and God then is that which holds the world together. Now, just because there are theologians here, technically, Schelling and Lessing and Herder and Schleiermacher, the classical liberals, their word for it was Gefühl. Isn't that exciting? That's feeling. And feeling was this intuitive grasp of ultimate reality without thought. Schleiermacher was a New Ager 250 years before our time. But that's too technical, see? But it is too true. Now, 9, language and doctrine written in Revelation are ultimately inadequate and meaningless. Isn't that what people say? Quit giving me these dry old doctrinal sermons. I want to hear some important practical stuff. You what? Can you imagine? Can you imagine a person going to an Ivy League law school and said, I'm sick and tired of sitting in these classes. I want to help somebody. Can you imagine a neurosurgeon said, I haven't got time for 12 more years of school. I'm going to help people. I care. Yeah, but you kill all your patients without preparation. You might kill some with it, but you'll kill them all without it. But when it comes to study, I try my best to encourage students to study. Now, I'm a failure at it, but I try. It's almost total failure. But that's their problem. Language and doctrine. See, our heritage has said we want doctrine. Well, see, arid doctrine is just as powerless as vapid mindlessness. Now then, 10, endless and confusing systems of God-men and gurus and avatars. If you would just memorize that, and the things you see in media, the things, if you go to the cinema, every major cinematographical contribution of this past season is a New Age to the hilt. There's no question whatsoever about that. You remember Indiana Jones. Now, I like that rascal. You see, the stone was Eastern power. The stone is powerful. That's the East. We fixed up the East. Well, that's 4 billion people. See? So they're not mad at us. And then we had the magical power of the Ark. Got those crummy Nazis. See, that's sheer New Age that made an awful lot of buckos. And then Indiana Jones, the next one, is the Holy Grail. All these objects are magical. And that just gives Americans razzle-dazzle. When you're sitting in a dry American church with nothing going on in the pulpit or the pew, you'd rather go to see Indiana Jones. That's action. Indiana Jones is saturated with it. Batman, can you imagine an age, the most advanced age in the history of the world, buying $130 million worth of Batman tickets? It's inconceivable, and I have IQ far beyond shoe size. Unbelievable. Now, we're about ready. I'm going to turn to old Oprah. Now, in the New York, of the four newspapers printed in the United States, one of them is the New York Times, is about Oprah and Oprah's love for New Age. See, I don't watch Oprah. I watch her here, but Oprah, all the talk shows are saturated. See, it sounds like they're saying something. Their lips are moving. Their eyes go back and forth. But the longer they talk, the less they say. Oprah. We're talking about influence. I wish I had the influence that she has. See, I'm not angry at her because she's influential. And I go home sometimes and the children ask, who is that man? You heard about Ben? Ben told everybody he just knew everybody. He was a biggie. And his friend said, all right, if you know everybody, he says, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take you to New York and we're going to ask for an audience with Mayor Koch. And he walks in, and Mayor Koch greets him and said, hi, Ben. I don't understand. I didn't know you knew Mayor Koch. He said, well, we have our Learjet still running out here. We'll just pop down and see President Bush. And he said, you don't know President Bush. You're nobody. How do you know President Bush? He got an audience with Bush. He walked in and said, President addressed, said, hi, Ben, how you been? I haven't seen you for a long time. He said, I don't understand that either. But he says, I know one guy that rascal does not know. He said, we're going to fly to Rome. We're going to see the Pope. Well, they charted a course and called for runway clearance, and they were gone. In a little while they're in Rome. They have an audience, and there's Ben. Pope has an audience here in the great palace out here. 500,000 people out there. His friend was standing up, listening. There was Ben standing by the Pope. And guy next to Ben's friend said, who is that guy up there by Ben? Fellow over there. Now, New Age phenomena, just one perimeter. One perimeter. Scriptures clearly teach our present plight And we're engaged in spiritual warfare. But that sounds like preacher talk, which is generally just preacher talk. Regarding this present time of evil encounter, we have two basic tasks. We must first unmask the New Age. It must be understood. It must be understood over and against the Bible. So we must understand minimally two things: the Bible and New Age. Secondly, we must confront the New Age. Let's not talk about discipling and church planting and church growth. Let's talk about the 100 million people that are religious up to here that do not see any reason to come to Jesus Christ. Now, the challenge of the New Age counterfeits. G.K. Chesterton, he is the father of Father Brown detective stories. Some of you are specialists in detection. In 1930, G.K. Chesterton observed, he said, we hear much about new religion. That's 1930. New religions. Many of these new religions are the very latest novelties of Buddha and Pythagoras. They're not new at all. Only the uninformed would think they're new. Now, the challenge of New Age is the greatest single spiritual challenge in the West today. I can't help that. Has nothing to do with our little get-together. 100 million people and something in the vicinity of $40 billion is involved in New Age influence. Our brotherhood, I mentioned last evening, takes in approximately $100 million. I could personally spend the total income of our brotherhood. I mean positively. And $100 million is spent in America alone on crystals. Something's wrong with that. See? And it's happening all around us. Now, the strategic response of the New Age in our global village, we mentioned education. Education is the singly most influential instrument of New Age in the United States. Education. Now, here old Abraham Lincoln. I am from Lincoln, Illinois. Abraham Lincoln practiced law in Lincoln and named Lincoln. All other Lincolns are derivative. They're fake. Old Abe, see, went from Lincoln to Springfield to Washington to the grave. Now, here's what he said. He said the philosophy of education in one generation will be the philosophy of the government in the next. There's very few intelligent presidents. That is a brilliant remark because it's correct. It's not merely a remark. You can make remarks all day, but they aren't necessarily correct. Marilyn Ferguson, I mentioned last evening that the Bible of New Age, if you're new to the issue, Marilyn Ferguson's The Aquarian Conspiracy is the Bible of New Age. Marilyn Ferguson's The Aquarian Conspiracy. And then if you know about that book, or want to get that book, for $12.50 you can get study guides for all the themes in New Age. But these are New Age study guides. Don't tell the Sunday school director we got some new Sunday school literature. God knows we need it desperately, but it better not be that. Marilyn Ferguson says this, and I repeat it because it's correct. I do not repeat it because she's an authority figure, because many authority figures are not correct. They're just authority figures to someone. She says that the Aquarian conspirators, she conveys and surveys in the Aquarian Conspiracy, more persons were involved in education than in any single category of work. They were teachers. What about a kindergarten teacher that gets these little mats and have the little kiddos breathe in and out while they're being asphyxiated there? They can't keep them off the walls and while they're doing meditation techniques. See, a little mention of meditation. The Hebrew and Greek word for meditation is to focus attention. Well, see, if we meditate inside, that's one thing. When David said, I meditate on, we have a Semitic specialist, Magin right here. He said, I meditate on your word. That means to focus attention on it, which is an intentional act. If I were to ask you to look at that black spot that I see over there, you would have to intellectually shut out the rest of that wall. You can't just, where is it? Where is it? I can't see it. Your mind has to function, at least at the conscious level, sometime. Now, administrators, now this is not a downer for education, it's just a crisis. See, we here, if we had more money, we could have better education. The French word for that is la banque. Policymakers, educational psychologists. Now, the biggest culprit in education for New Age idea transmission is educational psychologists. Now, I would defend that on the Harvard Yard if you want to technically discuss the information. Now, the culture-forming power of education is especially noteworthy in the United States system of compulsory education. Paul Vitz, one of the 4 or 5 brilliant evangelical psychologists, head of the psychology department at New York State University, notes that in 1931-32, now watch this coming, 1931-32, there were approximately 260,000 separate school districts. Now, this is not just demographic data. We're coming to New Age impact. By 1980, there's 1,600. By 1900, there'll be fewer than 1,000. And you know that if you're in communities that the schools are closing, well, that means that fewer and fewer people will have any control over the schools. That means all the powerful educational lobby groups can vote themselves in 22 years full retirement pay. My God, I wish I could fully retire and do something important. You see, the most powerful lobby in the United States is the educational lobby. And I started to say I was an educationalist, but many would deny that, see. Said, are you a teacher? I said, well, probably not. It doesn't seem to be. I do teach, but that's not proof of anything. That's just proof that you can't do anything else. That's like preaching. If you can't do anything else, preach. Now, what's happening is New Age ideas coming down in philosophies of education as the areas of control. See, church, Christian influence locally, by 1990, which is fewer than 20 years away, there will be under about 1,000 school districts in the United States. That's just trivial information. But see, if New Age ideas is filtering down into educational systems, then a few people will control the whole educational system. Now, this is not a conspiracy. I'm not a redneck. I was born in southern Illinois where people went to hangings on Sunday afternoon. You know, things got a little slow. And if it was really slow, they'd hang two and leave them there till Monday. And when you took the eggs in, said, my, I didn't notice that second guy, he's black and blue. Now, this 15-fold drop, now notice, this 15-fold drop in number of students, but students has increased by 20 million. The result is countless distressed parents have discovered is a loss of local control. That's where the local church is. See, that's my point. The local church is losing rapidly control over what's taught. See, we can't go and have every court case about evolution or education in Alabama or Mississippi, or down among the Cajuns in Louisiana. See, try out, play hardball where the ideas are shaped. Education is the singly most powerful institution transmitting New Age ideas in the United States. Read all the hardball. I play hardball. See, I don't pick out two sissies and then whip them to death and then tell everybody I'm victorious. See, we got to take on the big ones. The little ones will fall on their own. Now, Forbes 500, almost every one of those 500 industries and businesses utilize New Age techniques. See, to have reduction of anxiety. What's the big cry in the churches? There's things. Depression. People are depressed. Well, some people aren't big enough to be depressed. Some of us are big enough to be depressed, but some aren't. Why so much depression? Why? And at the depression time, here they come. Here these gurus come. Jesus doesn't come and said, I'll make you whole. Come follow me in depression. You'll never know what it is. Come follow me and you may die. That'll create a lot of depression. It's like Dr. Johnson said. He says a hanging marvelously focuses the mind. Particularly if it's your hanging. Now business, education, music, see? Music, New Age music, almost all. I mean by that 163%, almost all contemporary music is New Age. All the videos here are New Age. They're imaginary, dreaming, like the dream fields. How many of you have seen the dreaming fields? You see, it's the powerful, it's the third most powerful, was last week, because you're going to get a second chance in it. You didn't have a chance when you were alive, so I'm going to give you another chance to make it big. You can dream like that, but in the real world, it's not like that. So everywhere we turn, see, we're faced with this dreaming and reality and frustration and brokenness. See, holiness and transformation in New Age. Why don't they come to Jesus? Why don't they come to hear powerful biblical preaching and say, Jesus Christ alone can make me holy because I am a sinner saved by grace? Oh, no, that's negative. If I told you your house was on fire and you said, well, I just read this power positivistic thinking book, that's negative, don't think. I said, okay, your house is not on fire. You come back from Mayo's and they say, you tell the father or the mother or the family your loved one is terminally ill, 30 days. I said, well, that's rather negative, doctor. Don't you have some positive things to say? He says, the only positive thing I can say, because the chief psychiatrist at Mayo's is a Christian, do you know Jesus? Because you better get to know him right away. That's a different thing than New Age. See, when you come out and you've got, like Mayo's, you see, if they can't find it, you haven't got it. That's right. And these doctors, there's 18 Christian doctors on the staff. Now, that's not the whole staff, but that's a lot of it. When they come out and tell parents and mothers and fathers that we can't do anymore, imagine. See, that flies in the face of New Age optimism. It says, the most intelligent resources in the world, in my hands, no price I bring. I cannot do anything to help you, but I know all there is to know about this. But I can't heal you. They need to stand in the halls when they hear doctors tell people, I know all there is to know about your problem, but I can't help you. Who can? It's time to go. New Age, mental health, New Age, healing, business. Just a brief word about that. 4 perspectives about the dawn of holistic health. Why do you think that this is the age of concern for holistic health? Because so many people are sick. Why are so many people sick? Because the world is running so rapidly, we can't stand the depressing, pounding, the relentless demands upon our psyche and our spirits and our bodies. We are in the sickest age in the history of the world. Two things before we address for just a few minutes holistic health. Now notice, holistic health has displaced an emphasis on holiness. Holiness may mean wholeness in the Bible. There's no question about that. But holistic health has displaced holiness. We are born to be healthy. We have one doctor for every 540 people in America. We have one lawyer for every 600 persons. See, the Buddhists, Japan only has one lawyer for every 6,000. See, Americans are litigation crazy. See, they've been trained by lawyers. See, because if you're out of work, you don't want to just make wills and things, because you can't rip anybody off doing that. You got to be corporation lawyers to do that. Now, New Age is an ecumenical movement of Eastern occult and New Consciousness groups, and they network into what is called, and we can call, a New Age movement. Now, the new in this massive movement is as old as recorded history. It isn't new at all. It's belief that all is one. See, everything is unified. That took away Alexander Campbell's emphasis on unity. See, pantheism always does. See? Now, it challenges the reality of distinct persons, the value of the individual, and the world as we observe, and the distinctions between good and evil. See, distinctions between good and evil are illusionary to New Age. Absolutely illusionary projections of the human consciousness. Now, that's the first perspective. The second perspective is the dawn of holistic health. Now, how does that dawn in the most advanced, scientific, technologically advanced culture in the history of the world? Now, hear this. Here. You've got to hear it. A C+ student at a major university in physics knows far more information about reality than Sir Isaac Newton. But see, Sir Isaac Newton was a genius. A students merely learn what other people already know in schools. So we call that an education. Learning what someone already knows. Now, the dawn of holistic health, now watch, in America, we're talking about America, is the rising cost, insurance costs. Oh, we got the insurance lobby. If I were talking very long, they would be here. They follow me around. I've got all the charts, so I just ask them to look at them. High cost of being ill. People are looking for a cheaper way to be whole. See, it's very simple. It must be simple enough that on the street people can understand. The dawn of holistic health. Classical health care system, the professionals, institutions, and hospitals are out of the reach of millions of people. We've got to figure out how holistic health can grab hold of us like this. Many people are sick that can't afford to be sick. Medicine and mysticism. So we're going to turn to heal ourselves. Scientific medicine in the 18th and 19th century, the X-ray, drugs, surgery, etc. But I want to ask you to think about some cracks in Mount Olympus in modern, high-tech, megatrend medicine. Full-scale assaults from media, government, and public at large. Read Donald Shore's Don't Get Sick in America. You know, they took him off of media because he talked too much. But some of us just insist on saying it anyway. See? Look at Dr. Lewis's The Medical Offender. See, there are high-level critiques of the cost of medicine. I just saw a doctor just this week I was borrowing money off of him. And he said, "You're right." I was talking about this. He said, "You're right." I said, "I'm glad to see an honest Christian." He teaches Sunday school class, Art Williamson. And he said, "I charge $300 for gallbladder operations, but just 50 miles away they charge $2,500. God, those are expensive gallbladders. You see, because the doctors make fun of him because he doesn't charge more. They said, "You should charge because these insurance companies will pay." And then our rates, every time you get a bill, that goes up. So you get the insurance actuaries. You can't afford it. You can't even afford to have insurance. You'd be in jail. See? But I've been in jail before. I've been in better places than this. Now new medicine, cost. You can't afford. I talked to a brother that I was not aware just a few years ago, robust, civil engineer. He's still a civil engineer, but he's paralyzed from operation. But he had a $1,400 test to tell what was wrong with him, and the doctors couldn't help him. But it took a $10 million machine to tell him what was wrong with him, but he's still paralyzed. Somebody's got to pay for the machine. That's why you pay $125 for an x-ray that costs 25 cents. And $100 for eyeglasses that cost a penny. I refuse to have. I make my own glasses. Now, there's an association for holistic health, Mandola Society. Holistic Dimensions in Health list, and if you're interested seriously, 80 holistic organizations as of 1988. There are 80 holistic health organizations throughout the United States that are just organizations to order holistic health emphasis. We're just talking about organizations. We're not talking about the emphasis, the books and the things. 80 organizations. The Feathered Pipe Ranch in Helena, Montana. I didn't know there were anything but horses in Montana. And here we got a new age group out there. Those horses don't know that. Whoa, horse, whoa. All right. Now, in reality, the holistic approach is embryonic in stage. 1970s and 1980s, health foods, all the health kick. You see, Christians have a motivation. You and I can't give someone $50 to watch my weight as I ought to watch it. I'll watch it myself. I'm not going to give someone, say, "Oh, come on there, you need to lose another 40 pounds. I said, "Okay, but I ain't going to pay you to lose it." I said, "Oh my, I thought you would be more realistic about this." Now, there's no objective standard or guideline for treatment. There's only a general philosophy of approach to health care. The rest is experimentation and individual implementation. Sacramento Deputy District Attorney Dennis Warren, writing in 1978 in the Journal of Holistic Health, he says, "Legal considerations in the search for holistic health is the major consideration in Southern California, San Diego, and Los Angeles." I said the highest concentration of New Age phenomena is in Los Angeles. There isn't anything that they haven't got something to heal you of in Los Angeles. But Los Angeles will be the only mega city. We've got to keep this evangelistic. A mega city by 2000, 80% of the world, that's 8 out of 10, will live in 467 mega cities, and there will only be 2 mega cities in the United States, and that'll be New York and Los Angeles. Los Angeles will be 24 million. New York will have to go up in the air if it goes anywhere. Most of the population of the world will not live in the West at all. And that's about planting churches and evangelism, language, New Age in America. But if the church in America that has the resources doesn't catch fire and see the influences shaping the culture, it will not respond stewardship-wise to the greatest hour in the history of the church. And please do not forget another thing. Not one church mentioned in the New Testament is still alive. Not one. What happened to them? They died. Jesus didn't say any particular congregation is my church, but a church is his church that carries out his purpose. That's what a church is. Not one church mentioned in the New Testament is still alive. Is yours? Now, New Age, a third perspective about New Age. I'd mentioned last evening, and I will not pursue that, the articles of faith in New Age is on the chart. Here are some of the methods, alternatives to Western method. Acupuncture, you heard of that? Oh, it's just 6,000 years old, but see, Chinese still die because acupuncture has some element of validity, but you can't be healed with acupuncture. Other than that, it's marvelous. And then biofeedback. Oh, that's a big one. These are buzzwords. I don't like buzzwords in or out of church, but biofeedback, chiropractic, osteopathic phenomena. Why, these things have resurged and doubled and tripled in the past 25 years in America. Homeopathy, iridology, massage and body work. Now, this is not all done by women that make most women look like boys. Massage, see, has become a New Age phenomena. Meditation, imagery, and visualization, those are catchwords in education. Nutritional therapies. Why, if you would go spend $19 for this 50-cent worth of material, you'll be a new person. And God knows many of us need to be brand new. We've got psychic diagnosis, health on all sides. Health implies to these people an evolution of wholeness. Wholeness has displaced holiness. Transformation is in the hands of the person that knows the right technique. It's not in the hands of a God of grace. It's not in the hands of the affirmer of the gospel, but the whole power of the holistic health movement is disastrous to the preaching of the gospel. I'm not saying, see, there's nothing in the world that's totally false. Why, Harry, he's a specialist in the Mormons. The Mormons believe a lot of true things, but they believe so much garbage. See, I even believe the Pope. See? Even a Polish Pope, he knows some truth. See? And that's hard to come by. See? I do not believe that all that Billy Graham holds to be false. See, everybody in the world has some truth. But the Bible and the biblical God alone is the order of the truth. Because, I forget what's his name, he mentioned it the other night, Romans, and then proceeded to pay no attention to it. Romans 1, Paul is talking about a cultural criticism. He says that the wrath of God is continually ingressing into culture. People are ungodly. Ungodly. Two different Greek words. One is man's relationship to God, and one is man's relationship to fellow man. And what do men do? They suppress the truth. The grammar is crystal clear. You hold down the truth. See, if there is no truth, there is no lying. If there is no truth, there are no errors. And that's one of the fundamental themes of New Age. Everybody has a little bit of truth. And how much gall does it take for you to think that you got the only truth in the world? See, that's more gall than a ruptured gallbladder. So if everybody has a little bit here and a little bit there. But see, that's pantheistic. The truth, you suppress it. And then what he says, that when you suppress the truth, your minds are, English is totally confusing for that Greek text. It means that we can't focus attention, plan, and accomplish a plan. It's called futility. Well, what is futility? Well, futility is what happens to you when you plan something and it doesn't come about. And you plan something and it doesn't come about. And you get antsier and antsier. You plan something that doesn't come about. That's where anxiety comes in. But we ought to plan on bigger things that will come about. We ought to plan on recovering every inch of the universe for God and meet New Age phenomena head on. Two things, and then we'll stop. If you wanted to borrow money or something from someone, you may ask questions in a minute. Now death, the death and dying movement of the 60s was occult to the hilt. Elizabeth Kubler-Kahn Ross at the Medical School, University of Chicago, and her cohort were all Buddhists and Hindu. And we need to see if death in the real world, death comes, whatever religion says about death will catch the eye of everyone, since that's a ubiquitous experience. What's that have to do with holistic health? Well, we want to be healthy now because there is no, you may come back as a cat. That's part of your karma. See? You may come back as a brickbat. It's part of your karma. That would be an improvement for some. But death, hear this, death is the ultimate test of any religious viewpoint. Whatever our faith says about death and dying is universal matter, since it's widely known that almost everybody dies. That's one of the reasons why over 30%, last 1988 Galloping poll, over a third of America's population, believe in reincarnation. See, the incarnation is absurd to them, but reincarnation is a breeze. Can you beat that? We've got to figure out holistic health. We want to be healthy. We've got to figure out about death and dying. We've got to figure out how in America at this time, the time being the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, the greatest outbreak in the history of the world of New Age phenomena. But only the Lord of every age. We don't have a New Age Lord. We have a Lord of every age. And only that Lord over every perimeter of reality can empower the church to respond to New Age in the 1990s. Three things. Pray to stop. By 2000, there'll be between 10 and 11 billion people in the world. They're 5.25 billion now. By 2000, 200 of the world's nations will not permit visas to professional missionaries. It's already on the legal drawing boards right now. That means most of the nations won't permit Christian missionaries. But see, New Age ideas came from there and has been retooled in America, made in America. See? The world will double in size. The complexity that creates the anxiety that's so disturbing will intensify. And if we are not filled with power from God, we will not make it. Now, we will either try to fill ourselves or ask to be filled. But New Age says if we got the right technique, we can fill ourselves. And as everybody knows that participates in New Age, life is filled with so much joy they can hardly stand it. All the evidence is against the New Age affirmations. But many people don't let evidence interfere with what they believe, one way or another. Church must recover the Scripture in power. The pulpit must recover powerful exposition of the Word of God with power. When I say recover it, I travel all over the country and I know it needs to be recovered. I mean by that it is presently not extensively, powerfully disseminated. In fact, preaching seems to get worse, not better, because churches do not grow on great preaching. They grow by American activism. But there was a day that thousands would come and stand to hear a word. Not a New Age word, but the Word. And be transformed. But ours is not one of those days. Recover the life of the church, your life and mine, in Scripture. Recover the pulpit, recover the educational arm of the church, but we still have to account. How is it possible in the United States that 100 million people participate at various levels in New Age experience? Business, music, education, health. Everybody likes some music. They call it that. Our world turns on business, and everybody wants to be healthy. But the more money we spend on health, you want the actuary tables? Statistically, more people are sick than ever before. Why do people listen to these foreign gods and these non-saving Christs? Because they're empty. If they heard a word from God, they would not be empty. I've prayed over the loss of John Updikes in the world. But we have a great imaginator. We have the father of the Narnia tales that creates powerful imagination, totally controlled by Christian claims. C.S. Lewis, in the Narnia tales, brilliantly portrays all of these matters. But beautiful little Jill was thirsty. She was coming up over a knoll in this lovely, lovely land of Narnia. And suddenly she looked down, and in the valley there was unpolluted water running. And she started to run to get a drink. And suddenly, on the other side of the knoll, she heard a low growl. She looked, and there was the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Jill asked the Lion of the tribe of Judah, "Do you eat little girls?" He said, "I have consumed kings and queens and kingdoms and empires." She said, "Then I will get a drink someplace else." And he says, there is no more water. We drink at the fountain of life, and no occultic New Age effort will break our thirst nor feed our souls. July 14th, 1789, Louis the 14th, King of the French, wrote in his diary, nothing happening. The next day, the French Revolution began. He hadn't any idea what was going on. He just lived in his little autonomous private world. The greatest attack on the biblical message in the history of the church is within the perimeters of American geography. I don't know what churches you're from, but if there's not a renewal in the churches immediately, and I'm not an evolutionist. And if people said, Jim, be patient. I said, I've been patient all my life. How much longer do I have to be patient? And my patience is about over. Nothing happening. Is that what's going on in your church? Because there's a revolution right around the corner. We'll either be causing it or someone else will be. You and I will have to make some of those decisions, which that will be. And you remember those classical tales from another age of revolution. Rip Van Winkle went to sleep for 20 years, and when he woke up, the world was different. How long have you people been asleep? Jesus, help us to take seriously New Age influence in all of its insidious forms. That we might affirm again your lordship over all reality. Now, your lordship will not be recovered by us, but we participated in the loss of your lordship over souls, over countries, over churches, over brotherhoods. God forgive us and give us a chance in this last decade of the 20th century. Help us to be armed for the hour in which we live. In Jesus' name we pray.